Welcome back in. This week's edition of the Duval Dive has come upon you. Rookie minicamp coming up here very soon. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Jaguar Report, here to greet you in for this week's installment. And let me introduce you to my personal champion who will be in the building for rookie minicamp, my man, Travis Holmes. What's going on? Welcome, representing Big Cat Country once again, and you'll be doing so up there in the Duval proper, so to speak. That's going to be fun for you. I can guarantee you that. But thanks for coming in, man. What you looking forward to seeing while you're there tomorrow?
Oh, I am looking forward to the annual Underwear Olympics that we call OTAs and Ricky Mini Camp.
While you're there today, actually. Oh, the magic of technology.
To let everybody have a little look see behind the curtain. Obviously, we are pre-recording, so at the time that you're looking at this, we'll be getting ready to go right on the field and talk to the players. Hang out, watch everybody doing some catches, getting into the playbook, just catching up on everything they've been up to this offseason. It's going to be a good time.
Listen, as we wrap this up, just make sure you head over to Travis D. Holmes on Twitter doing the thing there, of course. That should be fun. And yeah, I get it. Underwear Olympics. You can call him BTJ to his face and sound like one of the cool kids there with Brian Thomas Jr. You can see how large beef can actually be. You could throw more props at a kicker. Okay, I guess. But yeah, with all that in mind, rookie minicamp is upcoming. And Travis, with all that, we've talked a lot so far about things we felt like worked with this draft season, with this off season, and we've been generally positive. I know that there were certain things we would rather have seen gone better. Calvin Ridley, for example, and the way that situation went was obviously not perfect. Probably would have loved to seen more, let's say, attention paid to the DBs. Yes, I'll even agree with you on that. No offense to Savage. I think him coming in is helpful and all that. That's a whole other question. We'll get into positional breakdowns later. Right. We still got plenty of time for that before that all comes to fruition there. But there's a phrase that you've been associated with on this show, even though you're a Jags fan. And no, yes, I'm not talking about this team makes you drink. I mean, one that would have you fitted for a red hat. And that's make Travis Etienne great again. And it's funny. We've talked about that, whether it be a little bit with T. Wiggs a few weeks back before the draft, last week with Jamal St. Cyr after the draft, and all of that. I still feel like, though, that's something that's not being talked about enough. Are they not paying the proper attention to that topic in your mind?
I can't say that they're not paying proper attention to it. I just don't know that I personally feel like they've paid enough attention to it. So
Okay.
that's to say that their job is to try to get the most out of the players that they have with giving the least amount of resources towards it. And that I fully understand it. It's that whole efficiency. How much can we squeeze? That corporate? How much can we squeeze out of this situation?
It is
Kind of
right? Everybody keeps reminding us, right?
Right. So that I do truly believe that is the way that it's being looked at this current moment in time. You try to run it back with the vast majority of the same O-line, and you make a small flip. You get Mitch Morris, who comes on in, and you potentially, it sounds like you're taking out Luke Fortner and sliding Morrison, and then everything should be hunky dory, right? That's the dream, that's the hope, right? It was just all his fault, and everything's great, and we know that's not how it works. But we've had the conversation talking about the acquisition of Gabe Davis and how he's going to impact the positively in the running game. The acquisition of BTJ, even both of these guys are able to block well, and that should theoretically help out with the running game. Dope, awesome. A little bit less finesse. I'm down with that. However, we still have the conversation of how good is Mitch Morris, and we don't really know that because all the film that you've seen, all the advanced data kind of backs it up that he's pretty much just a middle of the pack run blocker, but he's a really dang good pass blocker. All right, awesome. So what does that mean for ETN? Hopefully that's still a middle of the pack run blocker is still better, significantly better than third worst or second worst in the NFL run blocker.
It is still an upgrade, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I mean that can make at minimum that's make ETN good again level. So there's still questions. They're leaning on the advancement or the development of the rest of that line. Hopefully, you don't have an injured Ezra Cleveland as we had towards the end of last season when after he came over in his trade. Hopefully, we don't have the rotation of the left tackle. At one point, what Blake Hans had one game at tackle. You had Cam Robinson. You had Walker Little. You had Walker Little playing guard at one point, and Ben Barch. So all that rotation, hopefully, just a healthy line. Whew, if you can get past all of that, then maybe, just maybe, you could have a make ETN great again season. And I think that is the hope. I think that's the dream, at least.
Yeah, and for context here, there's something you posted, I think both on your Facebook and your Twitter, that referred to the performance of the line. One of your famous charts. But there's some, just for concept, like Trevor was the 9th best amongst quarterbacks, and having the sacks being his fault doesn't typically happen compared to his brethren there taking snaps. No surprise that the center, Luke Fortner, was the 4th worst in the league. The left guard rotation was fascinating with Ezra Barch and Ezra Cleveland, Barch, and Little all having turns at left guard. They're among the 8th worst. And then here's the one that shocked me, that the left tackle was 6th worst with Walker Little and Cam Robinson there. Now, I'm wondering if there's some weighting and extra scoring with that. I assume these are things you're getting from PFF, and as a data professional, I have questions about how they do things. But if they are putting more weight on turnovers coming from that position, I completely understand that. Here's what blows my mind. The right guard, Brandon Scherf, is grading out as the 2nd best in the league. That don't make no sense. Who saw that coming? Of course, Anton Harrison turning heads, being the 8th best grading out in the league. I mean, this is kind of what we're talking about, though, right, Travis?
Right, but this is all talking about the fact that they are pretty solid on that right side as far as pass blocking. And this is, again, we're not even getting into the run stuff, because this team was strongest in pass blocking. And even in the area that they are strongest in, they're ridiculously weak on that left side. And again, you can blame that on the attrition as far as the injuries. You can blame that on the rotations. You can blame that on a few different things. But again, this is the thing that they're best at. And the thing that they're best at from the center throughout the entire left-hand side of that line was all pretty bad, pretty rough. And that's something to take away.
I would add this too, because if you're in a position where you're trying to do more complicated things and adding double teams, if he's getting help from the left side, Fortner, when he's underperforming, then that's more work that side of the line has to do. Typically, if you're on the left side, you're also theoretically facing the better players for the defensive team. Although, for all that you and I saw, whether it be, on the PSF app, the Pro Sports Fans app, doing Duval Dive Live, bing, or, me there at the game and us talking about it, whatever it is, the consistency we noticed is that Anton Harrison got challenged a lot by a lot of teams' good players too. So that doesn't 100% apply. It's at the end of the day, I think there was a transition element. I think there were elements of either Walker Little, as you said, or Cam Robinson playing hurt.
Yeah.
And then
that's a part of it. Absolutely. And I think you're not wrong. That's a part of it. But the other part of it was also some teams knew where our weaknesses were, because they get paid too.
Yeah,
they watch film too. They know there's right. They know that these defensive coordinators know that there is a rotation of left guards who's taken place over the last 3 weeks for the Jaguars, and they know if I have my best rusher, I'm probably going to put him there, or I'm going to put him on this backup left tackle, or what, fill in the blank. Like they get paid to scheme these things also.
But see, that's I while I hear that impacts the campaign of make NTN great again, we slightly address this in that, the new tackle that they've drafted is meant to repair some of that. I feel like they're going to put Anton Harrison on the left side potentially, and start having the right side be the rotational spot. I think, listen, some of his food takes are right, terrible, but that doesn't mean he's bad at his job at blocking defensive linemen. You know, pizza
Anton,
sucks, Anton. I'm just saying. You don't put
Anton,
sugar on
man.
spaghetti, Anton. What's up with you? Come on. What are you, 8?
I l Hey, man, he's 1 for 1. He's 1 for 1 for every great take. He has a terrible one, but I respect the hustle, brother. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I make jokes, but like cooking with Anton is flipping great. I am all about watching. I will watch the hell out of that miniseries when it comes out on the internet here. Um,
But no,
but
I am interested in what Javon Foster is going to become because again, out of that group of developmental tackles, as we talked about last week with Jamal St. Cyr of News for Jacks, he is one of those top developmental tackles in the draft. If you talk anyone who follows O line play, they've all pretty much says after you get past that first group of O line tackles, he was at the top of that group for those that next stage of developmental tackles. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with him.
yeah, well, and he's not obviously not as high as a prospect as Anton was. To expect him to do what Anton did might be a reach. I mean, let me be prepared to say that, but I
Yeah.
think that's kind of why I'll put it into. I'll put it this way, man. It'll be very in. I am most interested to see in what happens with the tackles, right? Because let's be clear, if Scherf's grading out that much, nothing's happening to him at right guard, and I'm okay with that. We all know about uh, Morris coming in and doing the thing at center. Obviously, that's the news we
Yep.
opened with, and Ezra Cleveland will have a full season and a full camp in this system. Maybe that will improve, but I don't see any real movement or rotation, right? Especially if you believe what Coach Peterson said about the look that they wanted at O line didn't happen until week 17, right? I had to make sure I didn't say 16. Or week 18, I should say, for game 17, right? See, I still got it
Yeah.
wrong. But so that left tackle spot, though, like with Foster in the building, are you going to continue to kind of leave Anton out on an island while he's healthy and continue to dominate at right tackle? Or are you going to kick him left and have Walker and Cam battle for the right tackle side and throw Foster into developing in that mix? I have no idea how you handle that. What do you think?
I mean, that's going to be a great conversation to have, though. I mean, if that's exactly how the team walked into the early season, the early off season last year. It was, hey, find the 5 best guys, and we're going to just figure it out because they obviously knew about the Cam Robinson suspension coming up, and it was open season, great opportunity for everyone to kind of play where they're best, and whatever happens, happens. That's not a bad situation to be in. Like honestly, it's a pretty good situation to have in front of you. So if that's how they want to approach it this season, by all means, you have Walker Little and Cam Robinson basically on the last year of their contracts, and it's quite likely that one of them, if not both of them, will not be on this roster next year. So why not just say it's open season? The best guy wins at the best position, and we'll figure out the rotation later. More likely than not, it's still going to result in Ezra Cleveland being that left guard, Scherf being the right tackle, and Mitch Morris being the center. So you're still really talking about indirectly, so it plays right in the locker room. You're still talking about the tackles. You're talking about it being open season on these tackles, and the best guy wins. And if that results in Anton Harrison being your left tackle, then so be it. Hey, let's go.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that'll actually, I think that'll start to shake out during camp. I think at that point, Press Taylor and the offense are going to be moving guys around, well, I should say Doug and Press. Well, I think they're going to play around with that in camp. You'd be foolish not to, right? Here's what I find interesting. As much as we got into the conversation about make Etienne great again,
Mhm.
we haven't talked all that much about Travis Etienne. you know,
But that's just it though. We believe in ETN. I believe that we believe in ETN. Like we
I
believe.
I believe before you did, Humpy Bumpy. We got to have this conversation.
So
I
if so,
texted you.
so
I texted you from Everbank Stadium during the Cleveland Browns preseason game.
yeah, that's
You
fair.
know,
You
listen,
know. You know,
I invited
you
you to
do.
church.
That's fair. The house, the Church of Bucky's. Yes, sir.
And we have a red hat. Am I right?
So no, you're not wrong. So I think the reason that we're not having a conversation about ETN is because when ETN doesn't have a great season, for the most part, we all I think the vast majority of the Duval devout are in the belief that it's more likely that it's not because of him, it's because of the supporting cast in front of him. So if
Right.
you fix the supporting cast in front of him, then you will have less things to worry about if Etienne's getting untouched for those first 2.5 yards or something along those lines. I think we're in a good situation with the way that he just breaks tackles because he's always top 5 in the league and just getting, and breaking that first tackle.
Mhm.
So that would give me confidence. So we don't need to talk about Etienne because ETN is gonna do what ETN does as long as he gets that blocking. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And he and Trevor have both gotten their 5th-year options. I know that's old news, but I want to take
Yeah.
this time to remind the public, if we haven't already, which we probably have, but I'm going to anyway, that this doesn't mean that Trevor isn't going to get an extension in this offseason. Now,
Yeah.
the clock is ticking, the window is closing, but, I would feel obligated to point that out. Let me add this to it as well. I feel like Doug Peterson with not necessarily with Bigsby, although maybe they'll develop him some a little bit more. I don't know. But with Brendan Strange, with Evan Ingram, with the guys they got that can block from the tight end spot, I think they have enough supplemental blocking to do other things with running plays in general.
Mm.
We've said at plenty of clips their run blocking got better on the outside with Gabe Davis. I really wish people would stop getting clicks by acting like Gabe Davis's friggin' job is to replace Calvin Ridley. It damn well isn't. Stop it. Be smarter. It's just the same as you morons trying to tell me that Mac Jones is going to supplant frickin' Trevor Lawrence. Just stop with the dumb. Do
Right.
better. Okay.
Right.
That being said, though, there's another off-ball element. I feel like that's still an impact here, and that is, um, I'll put it this way: if BTJ doesn't stretch the field, that too prevents Etienne from being great again, right? And that literally could
Yeah.
mean if he's hurt for a game or two, as some rookies are on occasion. I mean, not to actually cite Etienne, that's not what I mean. Like, but him missing the season's a possibility. Like, let's
Right.
let's say, God forbid, a bad injury happened to BTJ. The way for the Jags to stretch the field is simply not in the building right now. And that's how big I think the BTJ pick is, because with that element, you're going to stack the box. The degree of difficulty to run is obviously raised. Do you buy that theory of what I'm saying?
You
That's how
know,
BTA
I
is to the campaign.
I do buy it because this is the way that the offense has been built, and this is the way that the offense has been purposefully built by Mr. Trent Baalke. I don't even know Trent's middle name. I wish I knew it just so I could say it.
I am purposely not. I am not going to learn the middle name
you,
of a
you're
man
not you're
because,
not giving him middle name status just yet.
well, see, here's the thing. If I give him 3 names, it'll be more like Lee Harvey Oswald, since he assassinated the
Oh
Niners.
gosh.
So, see, now it's all dangerous and stuff, right? That's why I can't do it.
Sheesh. Okay.
I
Well,
got
listen,
dark. I,
the way that we've talked about this, the way that they build this offense, and it seemed purposeful, was like, all right, cool. We're not going to get the top number one receiver who can do all the things. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to get guys who do one thing really well and make sure they do those things. So we're going to run this one guy, Mr. Zay Jones, on all these ISO routes. It's either going to be a drag or it's going to be a go route, and that's pretty much what we're going to do with him. All right, cool, awesome. We're going to have Kirk, who's just really good at those intermediate routes, so drags, cool, and he's going to just work everything underneath. And that's what we're going to use him
he's
for,
going
and
to
he's really good at that.
because Doug Peterson's going to pencil whip the other coach, and Kirk's going to do things like, win games in NOLA, things like that, right? So,
And then we're going to have Marvin Jones Jr. at the time, and he's going to be your separation contested catch guy. Dope, awesome. And this is basically the offense is doing a very similar thing right now. It's just with better players.
so
That's
wait,
the
wait,
only.
wait, hold on. I got to stop you. I don't know if you did this on purpose, but I want to check because it kind of works for me.
Mhm.
Are you insinuating that Gabe Davis is essentially a tall Marvin Jones? Is that what's happening here?
I would say he's a better Marvin Jones, but yes.
Oh, I wasn't trying to make it all personal like that. I was just,
I'm sorry. I didn't think I was making it personal by just telling
no,
you
I'm
what the
just
film
joking.
already shows you.
But yeah, I've
No,
never
he's
thought of it that way. Is my point. That's incredibly fascinating. I like that. It's an experienced guy who isn't necessarily elite, but has put in a damn fine contribution in a franchise. I think that's a great point that you
and
made.
much better at working the seams. That's the only major difference between the two of them.
Mm.
But he's still solid at the contested catches and not scared of running in between those hashes and taking those hits. And that's going to grab the attention of the safety. Here
Hell,
for it, cool.
Gabe is big enough to deliver a little bit of punishment. It ain't no come correct.
That's also a good point.
You know?
Speaking of punishment, we have not. And I'm sorry I didn't bring it up when we were talking about the Mitch Morris conversation earlier, but it just you said it, and it's front of mind. We have not talked about his concussion history. We haven't talked about the fact that we are one injury away from Luke Fortner still being the starting center for the your 2024 Jacksonville Jaguars because he's had 6 concussions in I believe this 8-year career.
I'll say this, and it's a fine point. I think an element of those concussions, not all of it. I mean, 6 is a lot. Some of that is going to be his technique. That tells me he uses his head too much, and lowers his head too much to make big hits. So that's a problem. Obviously, I think I don't know that you coach him out of that necessarily more than you keep him out of situations where he'll do that. What do I mean? Listen, we've seen Trevor run, but he does not run at the same clip nor at the same reckless abandon that Josh Allen does, right? So I feel like Morris will be put in fewer situations where he'll use that head leading block, on a running situation. Because centers are guys that are apt to go to the second level because they're usually air quotes. Wasn't true on my offensive line personally, but that's another question. But usually the center is the best athlete on the O-line, right?
Right.
So, keeping him out of situations. They say that the offensive and defensive line meet at a car collision every snap. To keep that collision from being a head-on crash in the second level, getting away from Josh Allen's a big step, and that would take him kind of out of harm's way. I'll give it that much credence, but yeah, this is that depth conversation. Or hell, you know what? Let's try Walker Little at center. Why the hell not? Like,
and I'm sorry, I was actually incorrect. I just realized I was off. He's
oh,
had 7 concussions in
oh,
his 8 years.
that does
My
not-
apologies.
that
He
does
had one. He had one last year, and I didn't count. I didn't have that counted from the article I was reading earlier.
yeah, I did. My answer stays the same with that.
Sheesh.
I mean, listen, all it does is add credence to Josh Allen, is the Taylor Swift. It's him. Hi, he's the problem. It's him, right?
Sure, let's go with that. But no, but it's a good situation if it works out. But otherwise, it does have that feeling. And again, this is me who supports the team, who believes in the team, and wants to believe in the idea of what they're building.
but
Still,
also owns a T-shirt that says "This team makes me
this
drink."
team makes me drink because this team makes me drink. Um, all that to say, it does still feel like a loose band-aid on a windy day. Like we are, it is. It can you can definitely say it's shaky, and that's what I mean is that if you're one injury away from this thing
Yeah,
potentially falling off the rails, then that's doesn't give me the strong confidence going into the season. Like I went into last season feeling good about the depth of the offensive line when we had signed Josh Wells and I, I believe there was someone else we signed on. I'm drawing a blank right now. Just they got hurt early in the season, and I'm just like, dude. And then we found out about the suspension for Cam, and I'm like, all
I'll
right,
be
dude.
honest. Wells getting hurt happened so long ago. I forgot about that ish. Yeah,
Well, I did. I was writing off-season articles like, "Oh yeah, that's a great depth signing. He just had started for Tom Brady not too long ago in the playoffs. Like we're good." And then he's hurt, and all of a sudden we got injury issues at tackle. We got injury issues at guard. What is happening with this O line?
the
And
title,
that's when it was depth.
the title of the next article is "What had happened was." Yeah.
So walking into this camp and having that thought process about the center and knowing you have a center who is solid but also has a history a long history of concussions, that is worrisome. And that's not the only thing we have to worry about. We haven't even talked about cornerback. We haven't talked about edge depth. We haven't talked about all these things that are additional items where we could really use another guy.
I got good news for you. There's a lot of off season yet to bounce that around, my guy. Woo! By the way, before we head out here, one last thing. The rumor is that the Jags will become part of Turkey Day tradition, as allegedly they'll head to Detroit to do battle with Man Campbell and the Lions. What do you think about that?
I think I am enjoying these cat fights. That seems to just keep happening every year between those Detroit dang Lions and these Jaguars. Man, it's becoming a natural rivalry ever since Trevon Walker and Hutchinson, and it feels that way. They were bad, then they got good at the same time. And we're bad, and we get good, and it's been a very similar mirror comparison when they do good things and they're always compared against us and we're compared against them, and it's just like, dang. Yeah, if this is true, if true, because that's the rumor mill, is that the Jaguars are going to be playing the Lions on Thanksgiving, and if it's true, oh boy, that's going to be either an incredible day or a terrible day. But the Jaguars do have a pretty extensive history of having problematic primetime games, we'll say. So I would like for the Jaguars for this to be the different year where they don't ruin the holidays. That'd be great.
I'll say this: they did fine in NOLA Thursday night,
Okay, that's
this past season.
you're right.
So
Okay.
I could argue Foster Moreau dropping that touchdown
Mm-hmm.
is a
On
big
Buster
part of that.
on Buster Brown. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I ain't going front on that. But
It
yeah,
was cool.
I don't think it's, and I know why you're doing it, and I don't blame you. The Jake Browning thing to me is if the Duval devout have the most rope to be frustrated by the Bengals game, and I think that was the Sunday night game. If I remember, no, that was the Monday game. So Monday night was this big fanfare the first time, and I forget how long it was. I wrote about it on Jaguar Report. Bing! But yeah, like let's just put it this way: it was twice as old as both my kids. I felt like, right? So that part with just the way that game went, Trevor getting hurt at the end, like that was
Yeah.
everything went wrong kind of night. I get it. I ain't mad at the Jags for the Ravens game. Sure, it went the wrong way, but there was a lot of stuff where the defense executed mighty proper and the
Yeah.
offense wasn't quite there. We had that conversation last year. I even think I wrote about that on Jaguar Report as well. Bing! So
But that's tough to watch. If you're a fan of a team and your defense is doing everything they can do to just scrap and claw into a game, and your offense just literally can't buy a field goal,
yeah,
that's ooh, that's tough.
but say what you will, I think the thing that's biggest about Gabe Davis too, to take this full circle. By the way, playing the Lions, you're talking about Trayvon and Aiden Hutchinson. I'm mad at you, but I want to see Anton Harrison and Aiden Hutchinson do battle. That to me, it's going to be mighty fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rerun of that Hutchinson and Kittle burying. Oh, sorry, that was Kelsey, wasn't it? When he buried him into the ground late in the season.
Oh,
I can't remember if it was Kittle or Kelsey. Kelsey is the same freaking colors.
that wait.
Hutchinson's trying to block, and he tried to do the spin move, and he just digs him into the
Oh,
ground. That
oh,
was that was Kelsey.
it was Jason Kelsey. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm just saying that I would love to see a rerun of that, just because I think that would end the conversation of whether it was Trayvon or whether it was Kelsey, because that's just not whether it was Walker, because that's not something you've ever seen happen to Trayvon to
So,
date.
but yeah, no, that's a
You
good point.
probably will not.
Anyways, we're at that time, my man,
Oh
already.
man, look at the time.
And I told you would have plenty of fun preaching about what you need to do to make Travis great again. Of course you are. Anyways, Travis, tell him where you can be found.
Hey man, you can find all my writings covering the Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com. You can find me here every Friday, 11 a.m., wherever you catch your podcast. I mean, if you're listening to us right now, just catch it the same way. Come on, man. Get it while it's free. You can find me on South Florida Tribune, all their podcasts as Pundits, Inside the Pigskin, Sports Exchange, wherever you get your podcasts, exactly the same way. Take a look on Big Cat Country for our article, which AFC South team had the best offseason. I think it's a very interesting article, so where you can kind of figure out what everyone in the conference is doing and not just the Jaguars, and come to your own conclusion.
Yeah, know thy enemy is a fair thing as well. By the way, follow Big Cat Country and Travis as well for the work he's going to do while at rookie minicamp during this weekend. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the Jaguar Report, 3-point conversion, and the black and gold banneret. That's where I was going. check that as well. Just wrapped up my coverage covering the Orlando Magic for A7BN Sports, and also the Student of the Game podcast, 9 o'clock Wednesdays, 9 Eastern. So check that out. Get your fix of anything sport at night there. Got a lot of quality NBA talk going. That's been a lot of fun. So yeah, with all that in mind, until next time, my friends, an honor, joy, and privilege. Till then, class dismissed.